We're back, baby. Horns up, talking Texas Podfisher, Topless DJ, Nikki, Snacks, Kreider. Toss and I broke down the running backs earlier this week, and literally after we broke them down, we had the worst news possible. Coming out of camp, CJ Baxter, our presumed 1A running back, is going to miss this season. He'll be out 6 to 9 months. So, yes, the full season with a PCL and LCL tear, not an ACL, PCL and LCL tear. Super unfortunate for a kid that was, a highly touted prospect. Again, the presumed RB1 for a historic program. And that's not even just us being, loving our school. It just is it is considered by many RBU. So he was the next in line to experience that. After Jonathan Brooks was great, Bijan, Deonta Foreman, so many in the past few seasons, the next experience that, limelight of being RB1 in the SEC. So it's very unfortunate for him. We're wishing him a speedy recovery. And for as far as it stands for our team, we're going to break down the wide receivers who now have a lot more pressure on them in conjunction with Quinn Ewers. Jaden Blue, a guy that we really love, a guy that I personally thought would have been unbelievable as our 1B RB2. Like, he would have excelled in that role. Now is the pressure of being RB1. And Jared Gibson, the highly touted freshman, Nick, you texted about him in our group text. He is the pressure now of being RB2 and coming in and actually making a statement for us.
Yeah, I mean, there's pressure there, but at the same time, he was ranked the number 3 running back in the country coming out of this recruiting class. So I think he is up for the task. He came out of IMG, obviously they're a powerhouse prep school. So he's seen a lot of top talent, Division I players. So he's not coming into this, situation completely green. If you're coming from like a smaller high school where you're only playing against, 17, 18-year-old kids, like you got some big boys that you're playing against. And look, CJ made a contribution last year as a freshman. So, there's no reason why this guy can't. We've seen it before in the past. J.K. Dobbins was an immediate force for Ohio State when he was a freshman. So
very true.
Stuff like that happens all the time. But I think with our running back room, I mean, we've seen it for the past few years, like next man up. Because Jonathan Brooks, took a massive leap when he wasn't really supposed to be the guy, and he was our guy. So I have confidence in Jaden Blue, everything that I've seen out of him over the past couple of seasons being on our roster. We got to give some credit to Trey Windsor as well. I think that when he's played, it's not always been in crucial situations, but he's taken, some good carries. And I like the size of our running back room. Obviously, CJ was the biggest of all the backs, but every single back on our roster is listed at 6 foot, over 200 pounds. So you don't really have any, small scat backs. They're all between the tackle type guys. But everything I've read about Jared Gibson mentions that he's great outside the tackles. He'll make defenses pay on counters, outside zones, stuff like that. So I think they're going to look to him a lot for getting into the pass game, running, out to the boundary. And then Jaden Blue's kind of more that, 3 down back type guy. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think the good thing about this Texas roster this year is that we're deep offensively in other positions as well. So you don't necessarily have to rely completely on the run game. Maybe, that takes a little bit of pressure off the running backs and, start to put more pressure on the pass game, and Sark develops some game plans that maybe, Quinn throws an extra 5 passes a game, rather than he would have earlier in the season if CJ was healthy. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. But yeah, I mean, it's always unfortunate when you lose a guy like this, but he'll be back. Obviously, next year we've seen running backs come back from injury and they've rebounded well. I mean, look, Jonathan Brooks tore his ACL last year. He was the first running back taken in the draft by the Panthers this year. So, sucks for him, but I imagine he's going to be back next season in full force.
And he gets a redshirt year. So he'll come back as a redshirt sophomore. Yeah. He'll come back. So he gets an injury year. So that's good. So he doesn't lose a year of eligibility, fortunately for him. T, anything you want to add there?
I think that it's worth mentioning, we talked about it last show, but Baxter did come into the season last year as our RB1. And in that first game, he outsnapped Jonathan Brooks until the second half, where Jonathan Brooks started playing incredibly productive. That was I can't remember who we played, but it was kind of an easy one. It was Rice week 1, and we beat him 37-10. Week 2 was Alabama. and
Yeah.
Baxter went 11 for 31. So that was kind of a rude awakening for a true freshman as a running back. And while I'm optimistic about Gibson, I think the real test here will be against Michigan when we play them. But the good thing about our schedule is that our first 4 games outside of the Michigan game are very winnable, games that we can dominate, in my opinion, and we will need to build that rhythm. Yes, for Gibson to get those quality college reps in, which while he's played at IMG, he has not played college football yet, and that is
SEC football.
And that's a big difference. But also, I feel for the kid, obviously, with CJ Baxter coming in as a highly touted recruit, like you guys were saying, as a 5-star. There's an expectation that this guy was going to blow the doors out this year.
And Heisman love.
Yeah. And that we were going to have the best 1-2 running back punch in college football. Those 2 guys, Baxter and Blue, were hyped to showcase their talents. And now he'll have to focus on rehabbing and getting back next year, because while I am confident that he'll be back and the eligibility provides him more opportunities, this is a guy that probably believed within himself that after next year, he would be the first running back in the NFL draft. And I want him to get back to that spot. But he doesn't have the tape right now. And now he's got, a tough injury against his track record as well. So I'm rooting for him in his recovery. And I know our staff is going to do a good job to support him. And then lastly, I'll just say, I think this adds a tremendous amount of pressure on Quinn. There was a massive amount of pressure already. And look, because we don't have Baxter there, it does. I like Nick's point of let's throw the ball 5 more times. I don't want Quinn running 5 more times because we can't have him get hurt, right? No. I know we have Arch behind him, but look, these injuries, if you sustain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 injuries throughout the season, some guys are going to get hurt. That's just going to happen. Yeah. But if it's to our top talent performers, it really hurts our chances in the long term for this season, what we can accomplish. I know other guys fill in, other guys step up, but at a certain point, a lot of who's going to be there at the end has to do with health just as much as it has to do with talent. When we're talking about the upper echelon of all talent in college football, right? There are some teams that just don't have the talent to get there, but between the ones that do, the kind of tier A talented teams, if they're healthier, that certainly benefits them. And we already have one thing against us, which is a bummer, but I'm excited to talk about the wide receiver room because there's a lot of names there and certain guys are going to pop out and make a name for themselves amongst our team, amongst our fans. And really make Quinn's job a lot easier.
Yeah, 100%.
Probably takes a lot less carries this year because in the back of your mind as a quarterback who's faced a lot of different injuries in your career, it's always looming, especially in your last season where you're playing for draft stock and you want to make sure you shot as much as possible. And that ultimately just comes down to playing as much as possible. He's probably going to, not try to carry the ball as much as he has in years past. And you're right. This does create a lot of pressure for that because, obviously the guy that would be taking some more carries just went down. But, I'm hoping we're just all out air attack this year. I mean, obviously, getting Blue his carries, getting Gibson his carries, but it's a very talented wide receiver room and trying to create, deception in the pass game where it's an extension of your run game where you're doing a lot of screens, you're doing a lot of, trickery when it comes to routes and rubs and stuff like that. I think this wide receiver room is very quick, very agile, great route runners. I mean, there's not a ton of size compared to years prior, but the guys are very speedy. And in college, that can create a lot of problems for defensive backs who can't keep up, especially when it comes to just mixed routes that are crossing back and forth. So I like, what I'm seeing this year, that skill set for these guys.
Yeah. I mean, and you talk about different things they can do. It's end arounds, we've seen McVay do it with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua at the next level, deploying those kinds of plays. And it's the end of the day, especially I always find as you go to the lower you go into sports, speed kills. Guys get bigger and faster and it evens out. But in the college, even in the SEC, look at the guys we added. Silas Bolden, Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden,
all speedsters,
all everyone's fast. Like there's no other way to put it. Everyone's fast as fuck. Like that's just like how it is, man. Everyone can move on this team.
Yep.
So the speed is insane, and Sark is going to definitely. And we discussed in the running back show of like how like things could open up deep for guys because the running backs are so strong, and like you may have to, if Baxter's having a great year, you may have to stack the box a little bit more on him. But I don't think this changes in the long run too much, because at the end of the day, we're still going to try to beat you over the top. Quinn's long ball went from garbage to really strong. I mean, especially if you look at those Alabama highlights, I think he hit both Worthy and Mitchell on 2 nice long balls. So he's going to beat you over the top. Who's our wide receiver 1 for you guys? Is it Bond as a lock? And who's the guy that is not getting enough love right now that you think should be?
Well, I mean, the way that I feel like I look at this Texas lineup, I mean, last year, like, who was our WR1? Like, I think that when you kind of look at the pro level, when you look at like college level, like it's really just like your X and your Z and your Y. And so like you break it down where like that's the depth chart, unless like, you're in the NFL, it's like, it's just Justin Jefferson, it's just, who else? Stephon Diggs, like those are the guys. But I think we're so deep this year that I think it's maybe just like 2 or 3 guys. I'd say I'm a big Matthew Golden fan, so I'm big on him. I think he's gonna have a sneaky year, and then of course Bond's the big fish. But Silas Bolden, I think, is gonna be used more kind of in a gadget capacity, returning kicks a lot too. But look, Jonte Cook's a guy that we're really high on, and then some of our freshmen might get some love too. But I mean, I guess if I had to pick one who's going to have the most productive season, I really think it's going to be Matthew Golden.
Oh, wow. Nice. T-Dot?
Yeah, I like that call out. He feels akin to some of our possession receivers who can work inside in the slot, who just find the right spot on the field. Devin Duvernay type, right? Like he feels more like that than Bond does. I think Bond will be, from the opposition looking at our receiving room, probably the number 1 assignment game to game. But I think Golden rather will become a quick, reliable target for Quinn. I have a feeling that Wingo is going to get a lot more burn than we think. I think he's an undeniable talent, and I think it's going to show in the opportunities. Again, I'm going to talk about our schedule a lot, first 4 games. And if 3 of those games are opportunities where we're up 20 plus points, he's going to get good run, and he's going to get good quality looks and opportunities to catch the ball and showcase what he can do after the catch and his speed and his size. So hopefully that we need momentum early, and this Michigan game is becoming even more and more important and anxiety driving for me, at least personally. But it's going to really be a huge test to what kind of team we are.
Yeah.
But for me, it's Golden as the most reliable target, Bond drawing the most defensive attention, and then hopefulness for Wingo to become a routinely targeted receiver because of how talented he is. The only reason why I don't say Jonte is because and Sark talked about this last year again and again and again. He's like, I want to get Jonte more opportunity. And so because of that, I just haven't seen enough of him to say, oh, this guy's going to be our number 1 and he's going to be our go-to guy. I hope that's the case. And I believe in the talent. We never were in a position where we really got to see it showcased last year.
Yeah, I think
not to his fault, right? Not to his fault at all.
It's interesting because in some ways, and maybe this is how it goes, because we saw X play from the jump. And X is clearly such a superior talent. He was great all 3 years he was with us, and he's a first-round pick. But it also goes to maybe show the lack of depth we had when X was a freshman. Like, it was easier for X to see the field. A guy like Jonte Cook, who you're saying we didn't get to see, and it's not his fault, like, I feel like he still can come in and still that supreme talent, but he was behind Sark ran a kind of short lineup. Does that make sense? Like, he didn't really have a ton of there wasn't that much substituting. It was really just X and AD, as far as who our receivers were out there. and Whitting and Jay Witt. So like, as far as like these young guys who are coming in, I hope Wingo gets time. I'm not nervous if he doesn't. I hope Moore and Cook get to shine, and it's not just the Bolden, Bond, and Golden show, but it could be like based off. I mean, we'll see. Like if he,
I think we're a little
how
bit
he
deeper
adjusts.
this year, though. I think
We
last
are,
year,
but I see who he adjusts.
yeah, but just like, look, your top 3 guys are all transfers that you added. So, obviously they're going to get playing time and they're all in their junior season. So you're predicting that they're either here for 1 more season or 2 seasons, right? So they're going to get their time. Jonte's coming in as a sophomore who played. He's probably the most played freshman last year in terms of receivers.
Yeah.
Wingo, of course, I think is going to get run just because of his speed. But like, you also added Parker Livingston, Aaron Butler, who's like a freak athlete out of Calabasas, Trey DeBose, Ryan Niblett, DeAndre Moore. Like, these are all 4 to 5 star wide receivers that were the man at their high schools that probably could go and start at other universities like right away.
Sure, but why does so like I guess you're 100% right, but maybe Sark. So maybe on one hand Sark adjusts and he runs deeper lineup, and that's what he goes with. But on the other hand, it's like you're coming here for a reason. You're coming here because, especially if you're transferring, like AD Mitchell went in the second round and people were shocked. Like we sent how many offensive players in the how many offensive players got just offensive players got drafted? I mean, I know it was Sweat and Murphy that were our big dogs.
Right.
Worthy, Mitchell, Sanders, Brooks, Robinson. We had offensive linemen drafted. Like at the end of the day, it's like, you only need one great season to get drafted. We've seen that time and time again. And I hope Cook gets run, because if he doesn't, then I'd be a little concerned with someone like him. Hey, he's been here 2 years. He's been
pretty vocal though, like throughout the entire recruiting process. And I feel like he's just kind of one of those guys that bleeds burnt orange. But look, his recruiting class, he was one of the top wide receivers in the class, 5-star. I think for him, like just playing the slot, his way, and he played a lot as a freshman, I think he's going to get a lot of run. I really do. I don't think we should be concerned about him. The only thing I'd be concerned about is if, for some reason, one of the freshmen jump him because like they're just more dazzling out there on the field. But I think he's going to get some play.
He should.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, Josh, is an interesting call out in regards what you're both saying is, because it's both valid points. Last year, Sark played a tight rotation from a wide receiver standpoint. We have a lot more depth this year, as you pointed out, Nick. I think part of the reason why there was an unwillingness to try different options on the outside last year from Sark was because there was a lot of pressure in our last season in the Big 12 to win the Big 12 championship, to get to the college football playoff. And that's what happens, right? I mean, we talked about it on our sister pod, the Stripe Sports, where we were discussing the USA Olympics team, and we don't have to hash out what we were discussing there, Josh, but I was saying the reason why Jason Tatum's not playing is because we want to win a gold medal and because there are other talented players on this team. And sometimes that just happens when we're talking about the top talent, college football, no matter what sport you're talking about. So we're in the SEC now, and when push comes to shove, we want to win football games. So I get that we have depth, but I could also see us only playing 5 receivers any given game, like unless we are up big because we need to win. Not to mention, we also have 2 talented tight ends that I think are going to see a lot of PT, Helm, and of course, Nyblack, who just transferred. And we have other talented tight ends in that room as well. But the one thing that's a bummer for me about the Baxter injury, just to go back to that, is I thought we were going to run some 13 personnel because we could put both those tight ends on the outside, have Baxter between the tackles, and play a little bully ball. We have one of the best offensive lines in college football. It's been a long time since the Texas football team has been able to show that kind of look where I actually felt comfortable with it and excited about it. And we still have the opportunity and capacity to do that, but obviously it's a little bit different when you have Baxter 6'1", 210 back there, 220, whatever he was weighing, whatever his actual weight is, right? You never know with the listings on the roster sheets. But I want to see as many guys get opportunities so that they have that confidence. And I think that, Nick, you're right about Jonte Cook. Like, I think he will be a part of this offense, no doubt. And some of those other guys, It's interesting because it's like DuBose and some of the guys that are freshmen, they might get an opportunity to like just run go routes, which makes them look really good because if they beat someone with their speed, then everyone's going to be like, oh my gosh, why aren't they out there more? Like, let's get them more opportunities. But it's obviously a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
The
would
other
say
thing
this
as well is that if we're blowing teams out, these guys are getting reps. So that's always a good sign.
I do. And on devil's advocate, the point of like freshmen, like I think he ran a tight wide receiver, room just because those two guys were so supremely talented. Like they're 2 first-round level wide receivers. And not to say that we don't have that, but those guys were bona fide, in my opinion. Like if you go to John T. Cook's class, the first 5 recruits, Anthony Hill played, CJ Baxter played, Derek Williams, a safety, played, Malik Muhammad, cornerback, played. Like Cook of the first 5, he played the least of the top 5 recruits we had last year. So I think that more depth, less of a clear-cut, quote-unquote, incumbent, like worthy, like, A.D. Mitchell, 2-time national champion, like talent-wise, like hopefully Golden, Bond and Bolden can, replace that, but those guys are clear-cut to me. So, and Jay Witt, who's an incumbent senior and like leader of the team, I think that also opens it up to
excellent block. He's an excellent blocker too.
Big body blocker too. Yes. I mean, hey, look, if you could block, you're going to play as well. And the last thing I'll say on wide receivers, huge recruit, baby. Kaliq Lockett. We're talking about all these guys coming in. We got the number 2 recruit from the wide receiver standpoint in Kaliq Lockett yesterday, which is pretty freaking awesome. I still believe we're in the mix with French.
Yep.
Which is Kaliq Lockett. Sorry, I said, what did I say? Khalil. Yeah. Kaliq with a Q, Lockett coming in, and he's 6'2", 175. Again, homegrown Texas kid, recruited by Chris Jackson, which is just huge. And so being able to go and get him ahead of Bama, Florida State, A&M, LSU in our own backyard is pretty special. He's a top 20 recruit and a big one for us.
The point that you just made about our top 5 guys from the recruiting class last year playing, I think it's similar this year too. I think our number 1 guy, Colin Simmons, I think he gets run for sure. He's getting his reps in there. Ryan Wingo, we just mentioned, I think he's getting reps in there. I don't think Brandon Baker is going to see the field because he's an offensive tackle. Our offensive line is very senior and junior. So, I think you just let the experience play and let these guys learn. But number 4, Kobe Black, cornerback, I think he's going to get some play. And then the guy that we flipped from Florida last minute, Xavier Filsame, I think he gets run as well. So that's 5. And then right after him is Jarrett Gibson. So, I think 5 of the 6 guys play.
I think Jordan Washington gets some opportunity as well from some reps at the tight end position. He's a talented kid.
He might. I mean, the Jordan Johnson. Look, it's like at the end of the day, it's like whoever's the best guy is going to play.
Right.
Like you don't have to be a 5-star to get your run as long as you're going to help our team win. But the depth is just insane. We're going to talk more positions later, but you're right, Nick. Like those guys all could play. Everyone's. And that's a beauty thing too. We talk about fresh legs all the time. We mainly talk about it from the running back standpoint, but to have this depth, not only do you have like teams for years to come, but like you can run fresh legs out there. You have the ability to like out stamina teams, not just because of your talent, but because of your depth. So these guys can get breathers. These guys can take some plays if they have to, if the talent's there and, our depth is there. And we just got to beat the injury bug. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like this is like a huge scare, and hopefully, knock on wood, the Baxter thing is the least of it going forward, or the most of it, and we don't have to deal with it going forward. But yeah, anything else y'all want to add for the Horns?
No, just that we have 18 listed wide receivers on our roster, which is
it's a lot. A lot more walk-ons though.
No, I know it's a lot.
I think receiver is probably usually the deepest walk-on position. I know it was when I was there. It's just, any athlete in high school, transitions maybe to a wide receiver if they want to walk on. But because there's always just so many different, looks that you're getting, and you need as many guys out there for the scouts. But shout out to all the Olympians, the runners, that have medaled as Longhorns. I think we had the men's decathlon. He got second. He was a Texas Longhorn. The woman who got gold in the 100-meter, she's a Texas Longhorn. I think maybe the shot putter also got gold. He's a Texas Longhorn. So shout out to all the Olympians. And we're still
he ain't a
and of
maybe
course-
anymore.
And of course, our boy Sky Scheffler won gold in golf. So Texas Longhorn, as you all know.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little in the last show too, Nick. Like that kid Krauser, the Krauser, the shot putter, like greatest of all time.
Yeah,
he's won 3 golds in a row.
Yep,
3 in a row.
And he won every year he was in college too. I think I mentioned it last time, but the women's volleyball team, whose middle hitter Ogbago, who went to Texas, is going to play in the gold medal match against the winner of Turkey and Italy.
Wow.
And then presumably the United States will beat Serbia in the semifinal match in basketball. And then Kevin Durant will get another opportunity to win another gold medal. So there's 2 other Longhorns for you, and rooting for them. And hopefully they both take home gold.
Yeah. It's more gold than countries.
You got to break down the medal count for sure by university. Yeah, you're right. I mean, like the woman who won the 100-meter, she won gold in the 100 meters. She won silver in the 200-meter, but she was the first medal ever for Saint Lucia.
Yeah, 100%. But it still counts for us too.
I mean, the medal count, university versus university, it's not going to be very fair. We're beating countries. Right. So
it's like us, USC. I feel like Florida has a lot.
Just the swim. Anyone who has a swimming,
true,
like a massive swimming program, which the University of Texas absolutely does, is at a really, really big advantage because there's so many.
And we recruit non-Americans.
Oh yeah, well the guy won the decathlon, like I said, he got second. He's Germany.
Right.
Like there's a lot of non-Americans. Not to go too far off on a tangent, we'll close it out. But quick little thing for the past, I guess, 6 Olympics since like 90 something.
Mm-hmm.
It's as far as I can look back. 3 countries have finished in the top 3 every single time. You guys know who they are?
3 countries have finished in the top 3 for medals.
Yep, every single year.
The States,
us,
China.
We're always number 1. Yep.
China,
Germany,
China, and this country go back and forth. China usually goes second.
Germany,
Russia, right?
Russia.
Yeah.
United States, China, and Russia, the world powers.
They're also just huge countries too. So many people in each one.
Yeah, also, the most competitive countries. Though. I mean, like think about like Race for the Moon, Cold War, just war in general. Like,
it's almost like these countries just chill out, dude. Just grab a beer. You know what I'm saying? Like relax, relax. Like this country's going too hard. But yeah, it's insane the amount of talent we have at the Olympics, especially in the Longhorn Nation. Fisher to Sopwith, hook 'em. Yeah, Fisher to Sopwith, DJ Nick's Next Rider. See you guys next time.